Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Top 3 video, where today we're going to be taking a look at the top 3 best culture victory leaders in the entire game. So today we're going to be talking about the civs that are generally the best at generating culture and tourism output for you. You know, the ones that are really able to sell some rock CDs, maybe sell some blue jeans, and perhaps even sell some of the newest cultural phenomenon, the extra wallet. Extra wallets are premium wallets with a ton of awesome features. They store all of your cards nicely in an RFID blocking case for extra security and have the really cool ability to fan out all of your cards with the press of a button. So I myself have been personally using extra wallets for more than a year now, and I have had multiple people ask me about them after seeing the cards fan out. It's really just an ultimate flex, honestly. Extra has a wide range of products ranging from premium leather wallets to the newer space-grade aluminum ones. They've also got some other accessories for keys and phones, such as this key holder that they sent over this time. Another awesome extra product is the tracker card. So these are small cards that you can slide into the wallet or onto the key ring, and then with these cards you can then track those items from anywhere in the world using your phone. The cards also are solar powered, so you never have to worry about replacing the batteries on them or anything like that. So they're really perfect for making sure that you never lose your important items again. There is currently a huge Black Friday sale going on right now with up to 40% off the entire collection, so feel free to use the link in the video description below to check out extra wallets if you're interested in picking one up for either yourself or as an awesome gift this Christmas season. And just as a disclaimer, they did not pay me to say anything about these wallets, but they did send 2 of them over, and I will receive a small portion of the sale if you happen to purchase something using the link in the video description. Anyways, though, what do you say? Let's go ahead and get on into the Civ content. So as another unrelated disclaimer, this list is going to be in no particular order, just 3 of some of the Civs that I think are the best at winning a culture victory. So up first on our list today is Bull Moose Teddy of America, and if you don't happen to have Bull Moose Teddy, then just regular Teddy Roosevelt works as well, because both of them are extremely strong cultural civs. And I know I said that this list is in no particular order, but I think that Bull Moose Teddy can easily be hands down the best culture civ in the game, given the right spawn at least. The thing that makes Teddy so strong is, well, there are multiple things. One of them is the fact that you get insane amounts of science and culture from having appeal, and this applies both early on, which then helps you keep up in those yields without having to build districts, and even more ridiculously later on once you start getting national parks down. Teddy also is going to give every city with a national park +1 appeal on every tile, which is both going to increase the number of yields that you get from his original ability that I talked about. It's going to make it easier to build future national parks in that city because more tiles are going to be at breathtaking appeal, and it is going to buff up the tourism that is produced on every one of the national parks in that city because every appeal on a tile counts as 1 tourism for a national park. So with this, you can probably already see how this starts to be a little bit ridiculous. Since preserves were introduced into the game as well, this gets even more ridiculous because you can get even better yields on these tiles. Then you can also take Earth Goddess to get some faith on these tiles with high appeal, and this is basically going to solve every single problem that you ever have for a cultural game because it's going to be super easy to get down national parks, which then will produce a lot of tourism. You won't have to worry about districts because you're going to get science and culture and faith just from the tiles that you have. And then from there, you can afford plenty of naturalists with all this faith, you can buy rock bands with this faith, and it's very easy to get huge amounts of tourism as Teddy. It doesn't even end there though. He has the film studio as his unique building, which makes it so that he will double your tourism output to other civs that are in the modern era. If you don't realize how ridiculous this is, let me just vaguely explain it to you. So tourism really is the thing that matters for winning a cultural victory. This literally doubles the yield that is going to be directly related to you winning the cultural victory. This is easy. I literally cannot think of anything else in the game that literally doubles your win condition yield. Like straight up doubles it to other civs in the modern era. The film studio combined with all the rest of Teddy's abilities make him insanely strong. So the one weakness of Teddy that I mentioned though at the start is that he is fairly spawn reliant. If you get a start where you spawn in like the mountains with woods around, then you are going to have an insanely easy game. If you get a start that's like no mountains, maybe you're just in like plain grassland or plain plains or anything like that, or even worse in desert, then Teddy really is not going to be super strong, and it also does take a lot of skill to play him. You have to have a good bit of knowledge on appeal and all of that and be able to effectively utilize national parks. Otherwise, you're going to maybe struggle with Bull Moose Teddy a little bit, but if you are an experienced player and you happen to have a good spawn, I definitely think that Bull Moose Teddy is the best cultural civ in the game. Up next on our list, we have Peter of Russia, and Peter of Russia he plays kind of similarly to Bull Moose Teddy, but at the same time a bit differently. So whenever I play Peter, I generally like to go for a religion and culture game. So this is something that I don't advise going for on a lot of leaders, just because the religion culture start is really, really slow, and you're really, really vulnerable at the early game when you're going for it. But the thing with Peter is that he gets the Lavra, which makes it really easy to play the religion culture game. So for one, the Lavra is going to be cheaper to put down, which means that you are not going to have to spend as much turns, or spend as many turns in the early game, building your holy site and things while you're trying to get your religion. The other nice thing is that it's going to give you great writer and artist points as well, which makes it very easy to keep up with culture and tourism, because you're going to have a ton of great works going on once you start getting down a lot of Lavras and building buildings in them. The other important thing for a cultural victory, as I kind of mentioned with Bull Moose Teddy, is having lots of faith to be able to afford naturalists and rock bands, because, honestly, rock bands, I think, are the single best thing for cultural victory. They are ridiculously strong, and Peter is able to generate a ton of faith, especially if you take Dance of the Aurora. If you have Dance of the Aurora and you're in the tundra, then you can easily get like +6, +10 holy sites even, I think, as I show in one of the clips here, which then you can use with work ethic to just buff those cities up a lot. Peter is just generally a very strong leader, and he's also capable of getting a lot of land because he gets more tiles when he settles cities, so this is friendly towards having more space for national parks later on as well. Then with this, you can just kind of use your religious beliefs to help out your culture output. You can then, use the Lavras to generate plenty of great people to be able to make some great works for some tourism and culture. And then later on, once you get into the game, you're going to have a ton of faith for national parks and rock bands, and hopefully a ton of space for them as well. So Peter is a very, very strong cultural civ. He is a little bit easier to play than Bull Moose Teddy as well, but I would say generally not quite as strong. And now for the third civ on our list, we have Kupe of the Maori. So previously, whenever Kupe first came out, I definitely would have put him as the best cultural leader, but he eventually did receive a nerf that weakened him a little bit, but I still think he is a very strong cultural leader. So for one, much like with Peter of Russia, Kupe is just a very generally good civ. So he's going to get a ton of extra yields from tiles that have features on them, such as woods and rainforest, which means that throughout the game, your cities are just going to be a little bit stronger, and it makes it a little bit easier to do just kind of everything. The thing that makes Kupe very good for cultural victory, though, is the Marae, which is a building that replaces the amphitheater for him, and it gives him +1 culture and +1 faith on all tiles with a feature. These tiles will then give tourism as well once you reach flight. So it's a very similar concept to Bull Moose Teddy in that you're going to be getting yields that are very friendly towards culture victory without having to build districts, which then means that you can, kind of have a lot more space for national parks. The extra culture and extra faith means that, well, actually, I guess just the extra faith means that you're going to have the faith output to be able to afford naturalists and rock bands later on. So this is just going to end up being really good in terms of making you generally pretty consistent throughout the game, giving you that engine to give you a lot of culture early on, and then once you hit the late game and you unlock those naturalists and rock bands, you're really going to be able to explode, get down a ton of national parks. You can also put down a lot of seaside resorts as Kupe because you can settle plenty of coastal cities, which I find is also a very strong thing. If you're playing Kupe, you can settle a lot of these little islands and then just spam seaside resorts on them. If you build Cristo Redentor, then this becomes even a little bit more ridiculous. So Kupe, as I mentioned, he's not quite as ludicrous as what he once was, because previously the Marae used to give 2 culture and 2 faith on all tiles with a feature, which was honestly broken. It was probably the easiest way to win a culture victory in the game, but this is still very good for giving you a ton of free culture, a ton of free tourism once you hit flight, and plenty of faith to be able to give you the purchasing power for naturalists and rock bands. The bad thing with Kupe is that he is not able to get great writers. This actually isn't really much of a problem just because, so great works of writing used to provide a lot more culture and tourism than they do now, but ever since that was nerfed, I really don't find that they are very impactful towards winning you a culture victory. I find that basically everything is dominated by your ability to just build national parks, to spam rock bands and get them to really high levels, and then to build seaside resorts as well. I find that those are generally the best engines to win you a culture victory. So even though Kupe can't get great writers, I really don't think it hurts him all that much. So now on to the honorable mentions, because I know that there are always going to be leaders that people are going to say, why weren't they in the top 3? So I'm just going to give a few here. There are honestly quite a few that I could give for cultural victory, because there are a lot of civs that are at least decent at culture victory, but I'm just going to go into a few here. So for one, I think China with the Great Wall is actually really strong for cultural victory, just because the Great Wall, ever since it was buffed, provides a ton of extra culture now, and you can get basically a ton of tiles with 4 culture and then eventually 4 tourism once you hit flight as well, which is really strong, especially since it's not unlocked too late into the game. I think Canada with the Mountie is also a very strong contender for cultural victory because the amount of national parks that you could make with Mounties is ridiculously high. They now have 2 build national park charges, which means you basically have no limits on the number of national parks that you can have, besides land and maybe appeal, because you don't have to worry about having faith to buy them. You can just build them outright, or you can buy them with gold. So I think Canada is another very strong one worthy of a mention, and I think Persia is also as well, and perhaps Egypt as well with the Pairi da Eza and the Sphinx. Basically, any tile improvement that gives a lot of appeal and you can place pretty freely is going to make it a lot easier to get down national parks and seaside resorts, so I think both of those civs are quite good for cultural victory as well. So thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. And if you're looking for some more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Don't forget to check out extra wallets, links in the video description below if you're interested in picking one up. But thank you everyone for watching, and goodbye.